Hello and welcome to KitPlus TV, sponsored by Mediaproxy. Now, last week we saw the announcement of a new Micro Four Thirds camera from Lumix. It's the long-awaited announcement that is the GH6.
Yes, some real excitement around this camera, ongoing commitment to the Micro Four Thirds format and a host of new features. Now, it'd be easy to just list them all, but it's better to have a chat with someone who's had their hands on one. So with his first impressions, please welcome back to the show, Jake Ratcliffe from CVP. Hi, Jake. Good to see you. So what's your thoughts on this new camera?
I mean, it's crazy. We've waited so long for Panasonic to bring this back out. You know, it's I mean, 2017 was when the original GH5 came out, and obviously a lot of people have been really excited for it. And I think they couldn't have crammed really anything else into this camera from a filmmaking perspective. So, but I mean, that's what Panasonic have done so well for years now with their S1H and S1s and all that. Like they've really tried to push what are in these kind of hybrid cameras, and they've always been more lent towards video, whereas like Sony and Canon, obviously until recently with the R5C, have always been more stills orientated. So yeah, it's been awesome, and the feedback's been really interesting. Seeing what people think about the Micro Four Thirds system still in 2022, when obviously full frame and Super 35 are the things that everyone all the cameras that people are talking about. So yeah, it's been really interesting.
So I guess this shows that Panasonic Lumix are committed to the Micro Four Thirds format. I mean, there's been so much buzz around full frame, and I mean, Matt's got an S5. But so give us a quick benefits overview of Micro Four Thirds.
Yeah, I mean, the way it used to be obviously was to do with like size and weight. The GH6 is actually quite a big boy now. It's about 100 grams heavier than the GH5, which isn't too much, but it does feel more substantial in the hand, definitely, than previous mirrorless cameras Micro Four Thirds mirrorless cameras from Panasonic, and that's because of the new fan system on the back, mainly as to deal with the increased resolution of the sensor and all the nice codecs that it now features. That's there to make sure it doesn't overheat like some of the other cameras can at this price point. So it does feel more substantial, but obviously another big benefit of Micro Four Thirds is the fact that you can get much smaller lenses that are kind of the same kind of equivalent focal lengths and speed and actual performance comparatively to full frame, much smaller. So that's a big thing for a lot of people that are running and gunning in these kind of like more difficult scenarios. It is a big difference. But obviously it does have drawbacks over full frame as well, with just the sensor limitations of something this small. But Panasonic have really pushed as much out of the sensor as possible. They've introduced a new feature called Dynamic Range Boost Mode, which is very similar to what Canon did with the C70 and the C300 Mark III, and it's actually what Arri use on the Alexa sensor as well, where they're taking a low and a high gain output and then combining them together to get around a stop extra worth of highlights in the dynamic range. So they've really maxed out as much as they can out of this camera now, and yeah, it's very, very good for the price.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that this is a DSLR type product, a DSLR body targeted at the filmmaker, the video person. So a stills photographer probably wouldn't choose this camera. So why would it kind of lends me to the thing, why would a videographer or a filmmaker choose this DSLR style camera?
Well, I think people have got used to this kind of form factor over the years now, since obviously the 5D Mark II kind of introduced it to filmmakers.
Okay.
It is nice to shoot video with. They've kind of refined it over the years, and it is nice for that kind of run and gun style. Obviously, it's not quite the same as using a camcorder style or FX6, that kind of body style.
Right.
But look at the C70. People absolutely love that camera, and it's essentially just a slightly bigger mirrorless hybrid kind of style camera. So people are used to it. It's just it will really come down to what kind of productions you want it on. But for this kind of price point, the big benefits over like camcorders and stuff are just pure image quality related, and obviously the fact you can change the lens. So everything has different pros and cons. But yeah, this definitely leans more towards video than still. It's not a bad stills camera. It's pretty decent. It's just, Panasonic are very clearly just completely aimed it towards video, because they've just got so many video features in there that other mirrorless cameras at its price point just don't have. So yeah, it's definitely lent more towards video.
Yeah, I think the fact that you've got I think I noticed a record button on the front of the camera. So if you're self-shooting and you're in front of the camera, you've got that easy access. And also when the screen flips out, I think it flips out in a way that avoids the cabling as well to make it easier to see what you're shooting.
Yes, it's the same as the S1H, so it can flick out and then you can swivel it around as well. And yeah, mentioning the front record buttons, that's really nice for when you've got it caged up as well, because a lot of the cages will cover this. So having this here still is really nice. And obviously, like with most Panasonic cameras, you can rebind a lot of the buttons to do what you want essentially. So that's really good for the dynamic range boost mode. You can actually assign that to a button, which is really nice. And then the same with other previous cameras, the custom function buttons on, the custom settings here, you can predefine resolutions and frame rates and everything, and you can switch so quickly, which again, you can't really do with many other cameras at its price point.
And so you mentioned that let quickly touch on this on codecs a bit. Are there any highlight codecs there that have been announced in here? And I guess, are any of these unique to this camera?
Yeah, I think Blackmagic were the first people to kind of put ProRes into these kind of cameras, but Panasonic have done it here as well. You can do 5.7K ProRes, 42 and 42 HQ internally. And I think in a firmware update, they'll be bringing out 4K and 2K options as well, which could be really nice because the great thing about the GH6 is it would take that resolution up to 120 frames, up to 60 frames per second. It will actually downscale the image, so you're going to actually be doing what you'd be doing in post if you shot in 5.7K, aka getting the much nicer image quality that you can get in camera when you're shooting 4K in this. And then obviously you can do all the regular kind of intra-frame 42 10-bit modes that these cameras have prided themselves on for years now, all up to 120 frames per second, which is awesome.
So I think you mentioned the dynamic range boost feature early on, Jake. How effective is that? Because I think there's 13 plus stops on there. Yeah,
so with it turned off, it's 12 plus, and then when it turned on, it's 13 plus. Right. And then actually, CineD do some really great lab tests, and in their tests, it actually showed that you get a bit more dynamic range when you're shooting in H.265 over ProRes, which is kind of bizarre, but I think it's to do with the way the noise floor is being, because they do like a certain signal to noise ratio. So I think it's the way the ProRes is handling that noise floor is a little bit different. But yeah, between the two modes, it's around a stop in the highlights. When we did our review, we did like latitude tests, and you can very clearly see it there. And then we also did a shot, which a lot of people, I think, is a good representation for the dynamic range difference, where we were filming in a kitchen using an aperture 600D to kind of bounce through the window to replicate sunlight. And you can see the difference in those highlights in the windows. At the exact same settings, you can see how much highlight retention you've got, which is a much more kind of like usable metric for filmmakers to see, rather than just spouting an extra stop in the highlights.
Again, now I'm thinking about the tools. Now we've pointed out that it's very targeted at the video person. We can assume that it includes all of the usual tools, peaking, zebra, etc. Is there anything else? I think I saw there's waveform, vector scope, etc.
Yes. What
are the highlights there? Yeah, what are the highlights? Yeah, go on.
It's crammed. I think the only thing that's missing is false color, and that's the only thing I keep saying. Panasonic, why can't you add this? But yeah, there was a website that you could get a LUT for the GH5, and basically that can add false colors to the camera, because that's one really great thing about these cameras is you can load your own LUTs in, which again, at its price point, can't really do apart from Blackmagic's cameras. So that's a really unique feature that it has. And then otherwise, it has just so much. There's one of the biggest things actually that is really underappreciated is you can actually punch in now while you're recording, which this is the first time it's been possible on a Panasonic camera. It's always been possible to do it before you're recording, but not while you're recording. So now, if you're manual focusing, which you probably are going to be on this camera, like that's a really, really awesome feature to be able to do. Just casually punch in while you're rolling, adjust your focus, and then come back out.
So Jake, often we forget to mention audio. So let's talk about improvements there. I believe you've got 4 channels of audio. How can you configure that?
So yeah, with the XLR1, which is their kind of little XLR top unit, you can basically combine the internal mic, the 3.5mm input, and then the 2 XLRs to kind of do a good range of different inputs and outputs. And the XLR1 is such a good, affordable little unit to get great audio. It's a really nice little combination with this. And we did, again, in our video, we did a little test kind of showing the audio quality difference, and it is substantial. And I think other than that, they've added like a little audio record button on the top here, which basically brings up a couple of like settings just straight away on a nice kind of like little home screen where you can adjust the levels really quickly and easily. And another big benefit is it's also got a much better preamp in it as well. So you can go down to, I think it's minus 18 dB instead of minus 12, which was the old limit of the GH5s. And that basically means you can plug hotter mics into it without it being like super, super, super hot. And it's also got the same low gain mode as well as the S1H. So they've basically just improved it like a decent bit, to be honest with you, for people who are going to be recording audio. Because like you say, it is often overlooked in these cameras.
Yeah. And I believe the 4-channel goes over the HDMI as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full size HDMI.
Full size HDMI.
Well, on these small cameras, it is quite important, isn't it? So one thing that come across with another manufacturer, a lot of their smaller mirrorless, or this sort of style of camera was definitely benefiting their. That's okay. Their bigger cameras, more serious cameras. Is this going to help the VariCam range at all? Is this going to benefit the VariCam? Is it going to feed that ecosystem at all?
It's tough. The more professional end of Panasonic's lineup is quite dated now, even with like the EVA 1, that came out a few years ago now as well, and the VariCam's even older than that. So, the VariCam gets used on your production here and there. But I feel like they need to, if Panasonic really want to kind of like, get a better foothold on that market, they need to introduce like an EVA 2, which again, there's so many people have been asking for it. And then, kind of like reinvigorate the VariCam series a little bit, because they're not bad cameras. They just don't receive the same kind of marketing and prestige as Canon and Sony's.
Brilliant. So, Jake, what about availability? When are we going to be able to get our hands on one?
So we haven't got any in stock yet, but I think they should be available around mid-March.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jake. Always good to talk to you. And of course, do head over to cvp.com to check out when that stock comes in. Thanks to Mediaproxy for their support, KitPlus TV, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and all these chats are available as podcasts if you're on the move. Just search your popular directory, or you can visit kitplus.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.